So, Isabel, thank you so much for joining us on Leadtail TV. Really excited to have you here.
Thank you for inviting me. Thrilled to be here.
Good. Well, let's go ahead and just jump right in. I'd love to know. I know you have such a fascinating background. I was doing my homework on a whole bunch of things, and I've got so much to go over here. But I just wanted to start with understanding your role. I know back in the '90s was actually, it was AI related. I'd love to know more about that.
Yes, he was. He was, but he was not called AI then. But my very first job was a research engineer on speech recognition and speaker verification. And I work on the very first phone from a company that does not even exist anymore called Nortel Networks. Very first mobile phone where you can talk to and say, call home, call mom, call dad. And it was AI related, but at the time, we didn't have the processing power, the database that we have today. YouTube, Google did not existed, so we had to build our own database. We had to read books in a soundproof, room to just collect enough speech to be able to do our work. And I'm so glad that the progress allowed it to be even better, the models to be more powerful and more reliable.
What did you learn from that you carried through into your career? I'm just curious because now we're sitting here in a lot more AI, and I'm curious to hear what maybe you learned then that now maybe either it applies or maybe it doesn't.
Well, first of all, I think I have a lot more appreciation for the progress that have been made and for what is being achieved today because I know how hard it has been, because I know how, you know, um, inefficient and unperforming it was 20 years ago because of the lack of data and processing power. So I really realize the progress we've made, but also it was a fantastic school because now, I don't have to catch up as much. I understand all the concepts. So I have to, of course, stay up to speed and read about it. But the concepts are not novel. The iterative models are things that I've worked with then. The change of the way the learning process, the inputs, that will define the outputs are all things and concepts I played with. It's just I didn't have the tool. It's like I knew how to drive, but I had a very antiquated car, and now they have a Ferrari. So
Well, if this is the Ferrari, I can't wait to hear what you say in 10 years from now. Um,
spaceship.
Spaceship, yeah. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. And that's where I'd love to go next is, as you know, that AI or artificial intelligence is all over the news. It's not just in the news. It's like everything that, I don't know how many tools are coming out daily, built on top of some of the AI platforms. But what I'm really curious about is its impact on marketing. It's already apparent that it's going to help marketing in a lot of different ways, and I would imagine barely even scratching the surface. What are some of the things AI is really good at that you know about that you're loving, and where do you think it falls short that it needs to still enhance and see some improvements?
Oh, well, first, I think, marketers in general have always been adopters of technology. The only way we do our job and we can scale and we can better, personalize and segment the market is using technology. AI is not new. So I also teach at Santa Clara University, the marketing tech stack. So I've been looking and thinking about it a lot. And you're right. There is a lot of applications today. Actually, in 2020, there were 8,000 applications available to marketers to build their marketing tech stack. And AI was already part of it. We all use a chatbot. We all use data analytics for marketing mix or e-commerce data. I think the hype right now and really the buzz is because of generative AI, but not just AI. Like the American Marketing Association in 2019, August 2019, did a survey and there were 27% more usage of AI by marketers compared to 18 months before. And Deloitte did a survey in 2020 where they asked all the early adopters of AI what were their top use cases. And at the end, they found out that out of the 5 top use cases, 3 of them were marketing. So yes, marketing and AI are meant to be together. And I think, the excitement today is really because of generative AI. So AI was used in a passive way to analyze content and data, to do segmentation, to do all these type of things. Now, for the first time, it can be used proactively to generate data, not just analyze it. And that opened a realm of possibilities. And that's why people are excited about it. One of the most, common possibilities, of course, is content creation. We want to segment the market. We can do it today, but even if we have a very refined segmentation, usually the bottleneck is, let's say you have 50 market segments that you can create, but you don't have an army of marketer to write content for 50 different personas, right? And now with ChatGPT and the generative AI, you can actually start creating a lot more content faster, so you can remove that bottleneck. There are a lot of companies out there that already exist that actually are very specialized. They can do content for ebooks, content for blogs, content for email. My own company, Brevo, we do generative AI for email title and content. So it is something that, is going to make everybody's life easier. Now you ask me also, where is it going to fall short? Well, it's still early stage. So, are we going to all have the same content because we all put the same inputs and then, all the benefit will wave off with time? I don't know. I will also be worried about the cost, to be honest, because it's like everything is going to consume more processing power, more storage. And for every prompt you're making, you're going to be charged and you're going to start making a lot of prompts. So things are to keep in mind, measure the return on investment, maybe using it for the specific task first before going further. And also, of course, a lot of startups and tools we're using now, who knows if they're still going to be around 2 years from now. Everybody's talking about the VC investing a lot into AI, and we'll see what the return is for them, and how many of those startups will stay afloat.
Man, it is the Wild West again. It's almost like, it feels like to me like when the internet first started, because there's so much more to this than just the internet. I mean, it really, jumps in so many different directions and is yet to be explored. It's like a completely new born baby that we all have access to, and we're looking for the answers, and yet the answers really aren't there yet, even though we're seeing early signs of already great productivity and incredible use cases, just like you just explained, which is exactly what I was hoping for. I know one of the issues that marketers face is personalization. And I'll say this too, having been the person who wrote a book called Human to Human, personalization can only go so far before you have to have a human interaction, which is really what you want at the end of the day. I think you'd agree. But buyers expect personalization in their interactions with companies, and yet it's difficult to do that at scale. So, is this an area where you think AI could be effective, and where do you see it like breaking from robot to human?
Oh, well, that's a $1 million question, Brian. But I agree with you. That's what customers expect. We all now are very much comfortable with online purchase in our personal life, and we carry that over into our professional life. So we're willing now to share more information with vendors in a B2B context, but then we expect to have a highly personalized content back. And marketers have fallen short for the reason I mentioned, in terms of to very highly personalize, you need to micro segment. You can micro segment with AI, but then you could not keep up with the content. Now you could potentially. I will say hyper personalization is not just content though. You have to think about the whole customer journey. The consideration phase, the acquisition phase, the renewal phase, and every customer is different. Some people will spend a lot of time considering the solution, but then when they're ready, they take their credit card and they purchase in one shot. Others will read a bit about it, but they prefer to talk to someone and negotiate their contract to be custom for them. So I think also, in addition of having your micro segment, having your content, the how to communicate which content at what time to the right person, and not even over the right channel. Because you can be email, it can be WhatsApp, it can be SMS. So is so multidimensional. Honestly, I don't think any marketer can create rules, and it all has to be held by AI, who can see patterns and can really adjust and share the right content to predict the next step in the customer journey and make this efficient. We have a feature, for instance, on Brevo. I think just explaining this, you realize that you can't do it on your own. It's called the best time. And pretty much, let's say you do your Black Friday email and you send it to your list, and the system will know exactly at what time of the day for each individual the email should be sent, because they know this is when they open their email. Who
Mm-hmm.
can track that, and who can manually, send those emails or even schedule those emails? You need technology for that, and AI obviously is by far what everybody is going to leverage for that.
I wish that I had that for my own text messaging so that I could schedule stuff the night before, because it's always way too late at night to wish somebody a happy birthday at 1 in the morning. Even though I know that's possible in business, but you want to reach out, and then a day later you're like, oh, I forgot.
Exactly.
So this is the kind of stuff where hopefully there's this kind of reminder, these ways that we can start to be prompted to be more human.
Absolutely. And so then that's the thing. Behind all of that, there is always a human, because at the end of the day, AI is using historical data. Okay, so they will predict based on what they know, but there are things they don't necessarily know because it's not on the internet. Let's say you have a new regulation, and suddenly some customers stop buying certain things in some states because, I don't know, they're not allowed to sell it. Well, of course, I'm very French, so let's say foie gras suddenly cannot be sold anymore. The system cannot predict that. So you still need some human supervision. You still need some of that interaction, and also in terms to innovation. You can use ChatGPT to brainstorm ideas, but at the end of the day, understanding the market or even making a bet.
Hmm.
Everybody talks about Steve Jobs and the iPhone, where nobody was asking for an iPhone,
Yeah.
but he has his vision. Well, that's the same thing. Nobody can predict. I think for now, maybe, with super intelligent system, we will be able to, but predict what is it that customer needs, but they don't even know they do. But right now, we're planning with the regular data, but human will still be involved. Um, as things evolve, we'll see how much of that involvement is needed.
This is going to make gift giving a lot easier, because I have a hard time as it is. So if I could have something just read through, this is everything the person loves, and here are lots of options you could pick from. Oh my God. That's just one thing, but I'm just thinking, how can I make my life a little easier, and I know that there's a lot of data that's going to help drive that, and we're just the data's there, and yet it's not, and there's so many different aspects to what use cases we could use, and yet that's the problem. There are so many use cases that I'm curious. Do you think that there are like companies should stay in their silo, in their lane, and because there's so many different ways that all of a sudden you could look at something and go, well, we could spin that off. We could do that with this. We could do that with this. We could do that with this, and all of a sudden, before you know it, you're not a CRM company, or you're not a call it whatever kind of company. You're now a company building like these little offshoots, and that could get a little nuts. So how do you stay in your lane, and how do you stay focused with so many different ways that you can head?
Oh, I think it's like everything, you still need to have, I don't know, 30%, just put a limit, whatever you're comfortable with. Google had this 1 day a week for experimentation. Just do this, take 30, 20% and experiment, because maybe you don't want to be a CRM company anymore. Maybe you want to be something else if you realize by testing it. I just love the example you said when you say, oh, I want people to tell me what I should buy for whom. And in my head, immediately, I'm like, oh my God, what if Amazon acquire Facebook? Because now they know everybody what we like to buy, and they know our network. And then they could actually make recommendation about our network based on their Amazon purchase. So see, just you telling me this use case in my head, it starts spinning about how this is a marriage of social media and of e-commerce, platform. So yeah, so you should try. Why? You should experiment. You should look into this, and maybe you stay in your lane and you become really good at it, or maybe you realize that the data you have will take you somewhere else much bigger. And I think, back to your comment earlier, where you felt that it's like an inflection point, just like when the internet came. I totally agree with you. It is an inflection point.
Yeah,
We're talking about marketing here, but AI applies to healthcare. It
yeah,
applies to everything pretty much. And so just like the internet help us be better at everything we do pretty much, because suddenly knowledge was available to all, and exchange and communication was made easy. So yeah, I will not limit myself. Now, you need to make a living, you need to run a business, so don't put all your resources and, experiment for months and days without focusing on your business. But you should absolutely keep an open mind and
yeah,
keep some free time to be able to experiment. And by the way, you should experiment now. If
mm,
you don't start playing with AI now, 6 months from now, with ChatGPT 6, multimodal AI generation, and you won't be able to keep up. Like, you will have too much to learn at once, and you will be the one walking when everybody else is running.
right. Yep. We say that we're the market. Us marketers are really good at that. Like you're going to miss out if you don't do it now. Um, and I'm curious too, as AI becomes more ubiquitous, especially in customer interactions. What are ways that we can maintain that human touch? And I know you guys do this a lot. I think at your company, but maybe even outside the company, how can AI and humans share the work of these interactions and engagement without overdoing it on one side or the other?
Well, I know for AI how it's done today. Obviously, generative AI is a bit trickier because it sounds a lot more human. Like, the logic that you can ask, the way you ask question and they understand it is a lot more sophisticated than the regular chatbot you used to have so far, right? So how it is done today is, even if we use AI, people are very much, and I think the most successful example is when you're very informed. You're not talking to a human. They say it's virtual assistant, it's a full disclosure. You ask question and then you understand its limitation. And when you say, I can't, I'm going to call a human now. You're like, okay. What's very annoying and deceiving is when they try to imitate a human and then on your own you understand it's not. So I think my first advice to any marketer leveraging AI is to put the full disclaimer and
Mm.
always have a path to reach out to a human, which I think today is kind of respected. With Chat GPT and generative AI and all those tools that now natural language is better understood and better created. We'll see. I mean, I wish we still apply the same, but I think it will be much easier to fake it.
Mm.
And so I don't know how customer will be comfortable with that.
Yeah.
It really depends. It's like in medicine, in healthcare, AI can detect cancer looking at radios much earlier than a human eyes. So obviously, I think everybody will want an AI in their life to do that. But at the end of the day, the empathy and the news and the treatment should be done by humans to support you. And so there is a fine line, and it really depends on the use case.
Last couple questions. One is, I'm curious because I noticed that in your title you had CEO and CMO of North America. I don't know if that's what you're at currently or not, but I do want to explore that just for a second because that's an interesting dichotomy of carrying both not just titles but both directions. Like you're carrying the direction of the company and the direction of marketing. And I was just curious. It really was neat that you're doing that, and I'm curious how you do that. How do you separate yourself in the two different lanes, and being able to merge when it's possible, and then also separate yourself when it's possible?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And just to give a little bit more context and background for our auditors, I work for Brevo, a CRM company that's reached a central status, so 100 million ARR in January 2023. And I am their global CMO. So for the whole company, but I'm the CEO for North America. So just one market segment.
Okay.
But your question raised two or three interesting points in my opinion. First of all, Brevo is a product-led growth. So until 2 or 3 years, we entirely sold online. People will find us on the internet through, advertisements, search, and they will try our product. We have a freemium model, and then they were purchasing it. And so, in a way, marketing was also sales. And this is how actually we grew in North America with even having, except for support, having a team in North America because everything was online. So first, marketing and growth in a new market segment are very tight at Brevo just because of our business model. The second thing that, your question led me to talk more about is I've been in SaaS for the last 10 years. I have an engineering background. In the past, my competitive differentiator, let's put it that way, is obviously not my French accent compared to, Americans or being more creative because being an engineer, but it was that I could explain technology, very complex technology into simple words, and I could see how it will help our customers solve their problem. 10 years ago, when SaaS started becoming core and I started marketing in SaaS, my competitive differentiator shift also to demand gen because there's so many analytics in SaaS. And suddenly things that, about the market, I will go to the sales team to ask them as a proxy for customers. I was becoming, like my team, marketing was becoming a proxy for the customers because especially in product-led growth, it's all about stats. How many customers are purchasing here? If you change this button, place, do we have more people? If you add this to the trial version, do they convert more? And you become kind of the market expert. And I do believe that even if in the past, a lot of CFOs and chief revenue officer were becoming CEOs because they had this knowledge of the market and how the business was being run, CMOs now have a better shot at becoming CEOs too, because in SaaS, you do have a much broader impact on the business. Like you are a revenue generating function, not just a cost function anymore. And you have a better understanding of the business. So for me, it was very natural to have both roles. And obviously, being, having lived in the US for 22 years, I can bring to Brevo, who is a French headquarter company, all my knowledge on the market. So these were all the so many reasons why both roles together made sense.
My favorite thing that you just said is it's revenue generating as a marketer. Like, and I know that to be true. Actually, I should say one of my favorite because there for so many years it was like fighting an uphill battle, and now all of a sudden the proof is right there that this actually works. It's really does convert, and at the same time, the brand and some of the untouchables, PR and things that really don't show a true conversion like digital does matter just as much. And so, it all plays a role. I know we know that as marketers. How do you, and how do you look at that and go, okay, well, yes, that's a conversion, but we have to do these things because they all matter. Do you have like a sense, a general sense as to how you see non-converting marketing items versus converting?
Well, I think everything converts, including brand. It's just a different way. Like, we just did a global launch about a new platform. Granted, I don't know how many people. I've seen the news, I've seen our press release, I've seen the press articles, but I know how many of them, after seeing it, are coming to the website.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just like when you do a brand event. Of course, you do a big event, not all the people who come at your booth are ready to buy a new CRM. But I know that 6 months from now, I'm going to see them in the marketing pipeline somewhere and we'll talk because now is the time for them to consider. So I think everything can be tracked. I think the value of doing brand event and brand awareness has an impact on the business. That's why we do it. Before we were maybe doing it for gut feeling.
Yeah.
But now, actually, I think you can really measure it, not accurately, granted, but you know that if you don't do it, you will see your pipeline decline
Uh,
anyway. So, and then you'll track it 6 months from now. So yes, there is a leap of faith for 6 months, for a year, but in the end, you will see them.
um, you're making my whole day right now. Okay, so my last question to you is that you're also a marketing professor at a school near where I used to live, as we were just talking about before we started, and a lecturer at Santa Clara University Levy School of Business. What conversations are you having with students, especially related to AI right now? I'm curious what they're seeing.
So my last class was before ChatGPT reached 100 million users. So it was
Oh,
more traditional AI, and they still had a lot of questions. Because obviously, and that's why I love teaching to students, they keep me on my toes. They were more informed about AI than an average person, an average marketer. Unfortunately, we have to, to run a business at the same time. So time spent for research is not as much as students, and that's why I love it. So they had a lot of questions. We talk about privacy in the class. How much data do you collect about customer? How much do you feel it's fair to use for them, and to deliver value versus to try to sell more? It's a fine line of ethics of privacy. We talk about the efficiency of chatbots using AI, and at the time before the ChatGPT era, it was, yeah, it's great for support questions, the most frequent asked question for sales, but you always have to switch to a human. And I'm refreshing my class right now because my next one is going to be in winter this year, to have a lot more generative AI, and I'm going to have some exercise using ChatGPT, and we'll see what are their questions now, because to our earlier discussion, there is a fine line now between, full disclosure, deception, how much data is too much data. And also one thing is when you use a shared tool, like everything you put in ChatGPT will be used for others. So
mm,
are you going to put proprietary data there and then everybody will level off? Or do you
mm,
want to build your own AI
mm,
and keeping your data? So I think a lot of the discussion, and what I want my students to think about, is how do you triage data? When do
mm,
you use an off-the-shelf AI, and that's okay because it will make you more productive, but not necessarily differentiated? And where do you keep your own data and you
mm.
build in-house AI because this is core to your business? I think that's where I like them to start thinking about, because the question will become more and more important.
Well, don't be surprised if I don't show up at the back of your class because that sounds fascinating. That's just like the topics of what I would hope is on everyone's minds, and you're probably going to learn just as much, like you said before, from them as you'll teach. And I can't wait to hear what you guys find. That's incredible. And thank you so much for sharing your time and your knowledge and yourself on Leadtail TV. This has been fantastic. I really enjoyed it.
Oh, Brian, thank you so much for welcoming me. I can talk about marketing and AI all day long. So it's been my privilege and pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you as well. We'll talk to you soon.